fudge are you saying? What the fudge are you saying? We have a state of war, these people. They literally teach jihadism every single day, and you're telling me it's peace. Literally, you turn on PATV, they're telling you to kill Israel, to kill Jewish people.
You're officially in the so-called West Bank. You're officially in the so-called settlements. We just call them towns. This is actually a very beautiful town. It was founded in '82. And so I'm elected official here, and in the town of Hebron, where we're going today, I'm the spokesman. So I work in 2 different hats, all in the area that was called for the last over 3,000 years the area of Judea, from the tribe of Judah, and even we have documents from 2,500 years ago in the Persian period. They called it Yehud Medinta, which means the Jewish state is here.
Like, we are actually an ethnic minority in this region, and we just have this small, tiny piece of land within the broader Middle East. Broader Middle East has 450 million Arabs, and we are a protectorate, a small Jewish enclave, a tribal land, if you will, that tries to hold on to this piece of land and defend it for our peoplehood. So I don't think of it, you're not going to hear me talk a lot about Israeli democracy and equality for everybody. I don't think that way. My thinking process is that we're an ethnic minority in this region. We have a piece of tribal land, and we have to defend it, just like any tribal area, just like the Kurds in northern Iraq, Kurdistan, or just like, I don't know, the Indians on an American reservation, or any ethnic group of people that wants to keep their place safe from incursion. So that is the way we understand it. So I see this whole thing as like a small little New Jersey-sized plot. Now, within this region, there are 22 Arab countries, and there's more Muslim countries, including Turkey and Iran, giant countries. So there's this small Jewish country. That's what it's there to do. We have minorities living amongst us, and they can live here in peace as long as they respect our laws of this tribal area. That's how I see it. And so I'm showing you right now. I'm showing you this area that's called the West Bank, but we think of it as the heartland of the Jewish story. This is like the very heart of the country physically, security-wise, and also historically and spiritually. Hardcore atheist.
Yeah.
We'll work on that.
Okay.
It's okay. We'll work on that. It's okay. Like, not an atheist, like a hardcore atheist.
Hardcore atheist.
Like, no, I'm not just an atheist. Like,
I'm not just not religious. I hate religion.
Right.
I just wanted you, yeah.
You told me that you are an atheist. What was the word you used to modify that?
Super atheist.
No, you had another word.
Mega atheist? Hardcore atheist?
Okay, whatever. One of those.
Yeah.
And I said to you, like, well, how can you really be an atheist and totally understand what's going on around here, since really religion plays a part? And you had a good answer to that. So let's start with that. Like, I don't know if this building moves you in any way, the Tomb of Abraham.
I mean, from a historical perspective, I think it's a pretty cool building. Obviously, this whole country has cool landmarks historically. There are things that I might not have a personal, like, spiritual or emotional connection to, but I can appreciate other people's emotional or spiritual connections to things. I'm sure we've all had, wives or girlfriends or friends that like a particular movie or like a particular thing, and you can appreciate their appreciation of it, or you can appreciate a particular thing without necessarily being into it.
This floor is original Herodian floor. This is a 2,000-year-old floor that's been walked on every day in honor of the forefathers and mothers. It has not been broken. This is the original floor of the building. That's pretty amazing. Some of these stones are many tons, okay? And behind us is the marker for the Tomb of Abraham. Marker for the Tomb of Abraham. Why I say marker? Because the tombs of the forefathers and mothers are below the building.
Okay.
They're below the building. This building was established as a mausoleum, a place to honor the forefathers and mothers. When Herod established it, he put these markers to mark Abraham. But you should ask me a question. You told me that it was forefathers and mothers, right? Here is the marker for the tomb of Sarah, and on the other side is the marker for the tomb of Abraham. They're buried and represented as side by side, mothers and fathers. Mothers and fathers. This is very important because this is about peoplehood. Okay?
Is there like a special ceremony or something for going in and cleaning, or does nobody
Well, that's a whole complex thing because the cleaning is controlled actually by the Muslim Waqf, and they don't do such a great job of cleaning it, but they control the inner rooms, and we control these rooms, and then 10 days a year, they get full control of the site, 10 days a year, we get full control of the site, and there's a kind of deal that's been worked out. Over here is the doors that lead to the tomb of Isaac and Rebekah, which are on the other side, on the Muslim side.
Okay.
Okay,
The tombs
so-
or the markers?
The markers. All the tombs are underneath
All
the
of them are-
building. Okay. But this room is very meaningful to people because it's Abraham and Sarah. So when you bring here Christians, it's like, wow, Father Abraham, this is a big deal. You bring Muslims here, Father Abraham is a big deal. Okay. So really, for billions of people around the world, Abraham. When I bring majority of people that I bring, whoever they are, they're like, wow, that they get to be close to the story of Abraham.
I mean, there's a lot of history here. There's a lot of, I mean, the idea that the people that, walked through this, you wouldn't call this a temple. What would you call it?
No, this is a shrine.
Yeah, walked through the shrine, walked through this building, walked up and down these steps, lived in these cities. This place has seen more history, 10 times over the age of my country. It's a very interesting phenomenon to experience.
Right. Mm-hmm. We think that non-jihadist pro-Israel Arabs should stay here and continue to have success. But jihadists, i.e. Israel haters, don't have a place here in our mind. I think that makes perfect sense. I don't think you want people that detest your country, want to kill your... If you take the majority of Muslim religious elite today in this region, they preach jihadism and a positive attitude towards the murder of Jews. That's pretty rough. That's pretty rough that you have that ideology. So people like myself think it's important to mitigate that ideology, mitigate people that think that way here. And in simple words, I don't think we want people that want to kill us within our country and on our borders. I think that's fair. Again, given that this is not a democracy and all that. This is actually an ethnic, national, Jewish protectorate state. We're an armed ethnic minority in this region, and this region is mostly Arab and Muslim, and they have their countries, and if you want to live in my country, then follow the laws and respect the peoplehood that controls this piece of land. That's the way we think about it. Thoughts?
Yeah, I totally disagree on everything, but I'm listening. I'm hearing you. We talked to a ton of different people. So
I'm not here to monologue.
Yeah.
You wanna.
Well, I don't have to debate you for 5 hours, or.
Well, we could do that. First thing, we already did a little.
If you want to argue, I'll argue it all day. But no, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I was still talking about discussion, but go ahead.
Oh yeah, or discussion.
Yeah.
I guess I could ask, because obviously when you talk about like people who are fine with Israel, like in their Arab, you're fine with them staying, but the ones who obviously are anti-Israel, you don't want them here.
Yeah.
Obviously that gives you a problem of like that it'd be difficult to decide how you give people voting rights based on that. But when you say we don't want them here, do you mean like
I don't want jihadis here.
as in like push them out or?
Figure out help immigration. That's fine. Help people find a different way. There's now many countries that are willing to take Gazan refugees. But if you're a jihadist, you've got to find your way out of here, because we can't be having that in the country. I think it's so simple. It's really. We use a lot of fancy words, but like you can't have people who believe in a neo-Nazism living in your land. That's not going to be cool. And so we got to help them find a way to either re-educate them, which is fine, meaning to say get into their schools, get into their mosques, and make sure that they're not teaching bad doctrine, or help them find their way out of the country, or fight with them, hopefully win. So those are the ways. If you could think of any other ways, that would be great. I think that the Abraham Accords heralds a different consciousness, and I would like to see more folks here think that way. Sadly, Hamas had an excellent, I would say, victory on October the 7th, and that made them much more popular to the detriment of the people around here, both the Jews and the Arabs, because more Arabs accept that ideology. So I would like to see more Abraham Accords way of thinking, which is the Jewish people have a right to live in this land, and we're ethnic national states, the Arab countries, and this is a Jewish ethnic national state, and let's work together for a better region.
Okay, I'm hearing you.
Okay.
Hypothetically, if there could be like a Palestinian state here, and in this hypothetical world, it's not a security threat at all. Like we know the state will be peaceful.
Right.
Would you still want the land because of to be part of Israel for other reasons like history, or would you be okay to give that up?
That's a very fair question. First thing, before we get to your hypothetical, before we get to hypotheticals, let's talk about reality. We actually have tried out that hypothetical now a few times. We tried it with Gaza. I was there in 2005 trying to stop my country from giving away the land to the PA, and that was going to be this here we're going to give this chunk of land to the Gazans, and they're going to work it out. But instead, it became what we said it was going to become, which is a front line for the jihad. So that's number one: is that when we give away land, we basically allow the jihad to take it over and to use it as a forward base to attack us. That happened also in Judea and Samaria, in the West Bank. The PA took control. Lots of terrorism came out of there. We had to do a war to make an incursion to stop what they're doing. And basically, every time South Lebanon, we left South Lebanon, it became a place for Hezbollah. So before I get to your hypothetical, why don't I just use the pretty broad, scientifically tested hypothesis in that hypothetical and show you that, factually speaking, it becomes the place of jihad.
Just real quick on the factual thing, there are counterexamples too, right? Because you probably would have protested the destruction of the settlements in the Sinai.
1,000%.
Yeah, but
and you're absolutely right. And I was just about to get to that.
Okay.
Which is, although I would disagree with you that the Sinai is a peaceful thing.
You can disagree, but it's factually true that whatever is coming from the Sinai now is significantly better than Egypt being a warring country against you.
I disagree with that totally.
Okay.
And that's not factually true. That's
absolutely true.
That's not even. How could you even tell that? How could you use the word factually?
What is the population of Egypt? How many Jews are in Israel?
We have a war. We have a state of war with Syria. We held on to the Golan Heights, and that's much better than what happened in the Sinai. The Sinai, we gave away a huge chunk of land. Now all of the war armament that has come into Gaza is all through those tunnels. We know that the Egyptian army looks the other way, and frankly, the Sinai was never historically Egyptian. It's a completely British colonialist makeup.
Syria split 20 different ways against itself. I don't think
exactly,
Syria
and that could have happened in Egypt as well.
If Egypt wants to be split against...
You said it's a fact that because we're not at war with Egypt, it's better. Who said that?
History says that.
History does not say that.
History. Look at the stability. How many coups, how many different leaders have been in Syria? In Syria from
and Egypt also had a coup. Exactly the point.
Yeah, but not as bad. It's still a stable,
Israel
functioning
holding
country.
onto its land and being a big, strong country in this region is better for this region and better for Israel. That's my opinion. And you don't have a fact. You have a guess of how it would have looked like, but it's not the way it necessarily would have looked like. And I'm giving you another example from a different country that it's not.
The West Bank also, after the transfer to the PA, has been more peaceful than it was under Arafat. I think that's indisputable as well.
Arafat is the PA.
Arafat's dead.
About?
Abbas is the PA now. The PA that you've got now is a man that wears a suit. It's a country that doesn't intifada you.
It's amazing what you pass over for peace. We had 35 Jews murdered before October 7th here in the West Bank. Okay, and you call that peace? What an absolute, I'm so happy for you that you live in Miami Beach and you have a concept of what peace looks like in our region.
Well, historically,
this is the stuff that pisses me off. Yeah. You say things on TV, I'm like, what the fudge are you saying? What the fudge are you saying? We have a state of war, these people. They literally teach jihadism every single day, and you're telling me it's peace. Literally, you turn on PA TV, they're telling you to kill Israel, to kill Jewish people. You're telling me it's peace. It's like I'm telling you, in your world of reading books. That's why I'm happy you're here. It's like
hold on. Peace compared to what? I'm critical of the West, where the West analyzes the Middle East.
I want to hold on to my land and destroy jihadism.
You're doing the comparing what is peace here to what is peace in America too. Obviously, the standards are different, but the peace that Israelis enjoy today is significantly better in the past. That's why you yourself said you wanted to live here.
It's not significantly better in the past.
Then why are you here instead of Miami or New York?
Not because of peace. I'm not here for peace.
Because there's something here, because it's more stable, because it's safer.
Is that what you think I'm here for? Because I chose a more peaceful existence than Miami?
What is an armed ethnic enclave that's defending itself? It's something that's creating, it's carving out like a more peaceful niche for Jews than what would have otherwise existed in other parts of the world.
Well, yeah, but it's not, okay, that's true.
It's not just that. I understand it's not just that. There's history here.
You are right that we are trying to carve out a more decent life here. And I guess my point is that we'd like to carve out a little bit more peace through no more bad guys in our country.
That's okay? Fine, but it's like a girl putting on eyeliner. If you draw too much, you destroy it all. You can carve out more and more and more peace if you want. If you sculpt a marble block too much, all you have left is a pile of rubble.
I'll teach you in Jewish. We say hafuch, like this. We go hafuch.
Yeah.
We go exactly the opposite. It's because if you keep cutting out then it starts to look ugly. We have now cut out the Sinai, the South Lebanon, parts of the West Bank, a part of Gaza, and every one of these things has become a place where the jihad moves up to our borders. And I say, no, be a big Israel. When I say big Israel, it's still a tiny country in this region. Be a big Israel. Be a kick-ass. Push back on jihadism.
So you rather
And by the way, just yesterday I was with Druze, and just yesterday, and I'll meet you, I'll introduce you to any Druze people. They always say to me, I said to him, yesterday I was with Druze soldiers, I said to them, what do you think about the Jewish state? They're like, I knew what he was going to say because they always say the same thing. He's like, you guys are weak. You guys are weak. You guys are weak around here. You don't understand how to push back on the jihad. You cannot allow the jihad to have 150,000 rockets on your borders, to have tunnel systems in Gaza. That's just dumb. Stop being dumb. Push back on these guys the way that the Arabs would. Just the way the Arabs take care of their own jihad that wants to topple their regimes.
I'm just saying there has to be a balance. Just being weak and being strong.
I am for balance. I am for balance. I am for Abraham
Nasser
Accords.
was a strong leader. He lost all of his wars. Assad is seen as a brutal, strong leader. His country is falling apart. Saddam Hussein was a strong leader. He got hung by his own people.
They were not strong. They were seditious. They were seditious people. Not seditious, sadists. They were sadists. They were people who hated their people, who stole money from their people, who abused their women, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not trying to be like that. I'm not trying to be a sadist.
Some people would argue that parts of Islam are that Sasson report showed that people were funneling money from the government off to outposts and settlements, and that
outposts and settlements are brave Jews holding onto our land.
As you said, that's the perspective of some Jews, but it's not a whole opinion, right?
Well, today you're speaking with me, aren't you?
I am.
You live in Miami, and then suddenly you decide to fly out with this team, spend time and money in Israel and the territories and all that. Like, I was thinking to myself, like, why did you do that? Why did you decide to spend your energy on this project? An addendum to that is, why are people so obsessed with Israel? But okay, let's get to the first part, which is, why would you decide to take your time when you could have been talking about, I don't know, Biden and a million other issues out there in America? Why did you decide to come here?
Yeah, I think a couple things came together. One, personally, this is the first bit of history I think that I've studied with this level of depth before. So studying it and talking about it has been something I've spent a lot of time on. And because this country is relatively young in terms of its recentness, the state of Israel, it's cool that I can have arguments with people. I've argued over, what did Ben-Ami mean when he said, I would have rejected the deal at Camp David. And we can have arguments about this. Well, I can actually go and talk to him. He's alive, and he'll do interviews, right? And I can't say the same for, what did XYZ leader think in World War I, or, what happened in the Civil War in the United States. So your history, in some ways spans back millennia, and in other ways is still
3 millennia.
3 millennia.
Yeah.
Isn't millennia, multiple millennia?
You're probably right.
Millennia.
You're right.
Yeah, and but in other ways, your history is very recent. People's parents here were parts, or people themselves are. I served in the '67 war. I remember coming over from '48. We talked to a guy who was over 80 yesterday.
In 1967, I was 12 years old. And I remember the day, in the Day of Independence, Mr. Nasser, President of Egypt.
Where did you live in '67?
1967?
Yeah, where did you live?
Well, Ranana?
Yes, we were up there.
Not far from Ranana.
Okay. Oh no.
And Mr. Nasser from Egypt.
Yeah.
He announced, "Dear Jews, I'm going to throw you into the sea." We could hear it in the radio.
Yeah.
And there was also there was a Hebrew station in the Egyptian radio from Cairo.
Yeah.
And they say, we are going to throw the Jews into the sea. And Nasser, he blockaded the Red Sea.
Across, yeah.
He blockaded the Red Sea to Israeli ships, Israeli movement. He made an agreement with the Syrians. They began to bomb us from the Golan. The Golan Heights was in the hands of the Syrians, and they began to bomb us. He made an agreement with the Jordanians to attack us from Judea and Samaria to the shore, to the coastal plain, and the width of Israel was 10 miles. 10 miles. We were quite sure that we are finished. They came from all over all over around. We had 10 miles to the sea, and that's it. Now, they were very serious. Exactly what they tried to do in 1941, when the Nazis were very near to Israel. They were right in Egypt, and the leader, the Palestinian leader, Amin al-Husseini, he prepared the final solution to the Jews of Palestine. The same thing they wanted to complete in 1967.
Do you think, wait, just on that, do you think that Husseini was the one that gave Hitler the idea?
Yes, Husseini was the founder of what is so-called Palestinian identity that never existed before. He began it from the 20s, 100 years ago. Never in the history you can find sort of a Palestinian state, Palestinian kingdom, Palestinian whatever. There is nothing.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I hear some people, different sides, say different things about the Holocaust, and sometimes I've heard it claimed that al-Husseini was the one that gave Hitler the idea for the Holocaust.
Well, I'm a doctor of history.
Okay.
But this is not my expertise.
Okay.
In the history of the Holocaust.
Okay.
I heard it. Okay. I can't make it true. We didn't know what to do. Now, there was an agreement with the Americans after the Sinai War in '56 that if we withdraw from Sinai, the Americans will protect us from attacks from Sinai. There was an agreement with Israel and the United States.
Do you think that was a formal agreement?
Yes.
Interesting.
Now the government of Israel begged the Americans, now protect us, they are attacking us from Sinai. As far as I know, the American president has replied, sorry, I can't find my copy of this agreement. Well, you know, it's not surprising. It's not surprising. They act to their interest, and this was not their interest at that moment. Anyhow, there was no choice, and the state of Israel was one step before total demolition. And then Israel began to fight against their enemies. And in 6 days, we got maybe the greatest victory ever in human history. And more than that, first of all, it's a process of surviving. And more than that, we returned to our homeland, to Jerusalem, to Hebron, to Bethlehem, to Shiloh, to Bethel, to all the sites that we were dreaming about, and we didn't imagine. I couldn't imagine when I learned about Hebron. I couldn't imagine that someday I will be there. But then it happened. Then we are here. And I remember the first visit in the Western Wall, in the Wailing Wall, Rachel's tomb, and the shrine of the fathers and mothers. Well, I can't even try to describe the feelings. And at that time, we went to visit Hebron to see the historical sites. I was shocked to see the destruction of the Jewish quarter of Hebron. It was a total destruction. In 19 years of Jordanian control, they destroyed the Jewish quarter in Jerusalem and Hebron. They destroyed the synagogues, they destroyed everything. And we began to dream about rebuilding and the redemption of the place. And I couldn't imagine in 1967, in the age of 12, that 9 years later, in 1976, I'll be in charge of the excavation of the Synagogue of Abraham in the Jewish quarter of Hebron, and we are going to discover, we are going to find the synagogue and we are going to rebuild it. When I came there first, it was an animal's pen. It was totally destroyed. And you see, it was a miracle.
This is a place that the left will never take you to. It's like, don't tell me that Arabs, have no life in Hebron. And then there's some Arabs, there's one guy in particular that's going to give you the spiel that he wants equality, and that's all he wants here in Hebron. I would say to him, like, you do not give us equality at all. The minute you take over a piece of land, you say, expel the Jews, give them no quarter, don't let them have access to the various holy sites that are in the city. And I'm not one to engage a lot in negativity about what they're up to, but just do me a favor, you know what I mean? Like, just don't give me the story that we're, somehow expelling you, although we should expel jihadists, but don't tell me the story that we're, making life impossible here for you. We are a tiny element in this big city. So the Jewish part that you're going to see today is a street within this thing. Okay, that's just reality. And I'm telling you again, and you take a left-wing tour of Hebron, they will keep you on the street. They will show you close the Arab stores. They'll be like, look, the Jewish people have stopped Arab life. There's no more Arab stores and all that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah. The army closed down the Arab shops to move them to the Arabs, to the major Arab sectors, so that they wouldn't use those shops as terrorism, as places for terrorism. This is 20 square kilometers, 5 billion shekels in exports to where?
Israel?
To Israel.
Although that's all they can export to, right?
Why?
Where else? I mean, everything has to travel through Israel first, right?
Travel through Israel. Go ahead. So what?
You're gonna probably pay
Travel to
export
Jordan.
tax and
We just brought tons of stuff from Jordan. Okay, there's taxes. That's business. That's called business. Why is that a thing? Yeah, they export through Israel. Yes, that's their land situation. People in different places around the world have different export situations. The point is, this is a very industrial zone. It has factories. Almost all the plasticware in Israel is made here. Almost all the mattresses are made here. Shoes are made here. Almost every piece of plastic fork in Israel is made in Hebron. Okay, I'll give you a story. We have a big Sabbath that we get about 20,000 people to come to Hebron for one Sabbath. That's when we read the Torah portion of the purchase of the tomb of the patriarchs and matriarchs. Okay? So we needed more mattresses. Now there's a humongous mattress company called Herbawi. They make mattresses here. So we had to buy them. So we called them up. We're like, hey, we're the Jewish community of Hebron, your neighbors. They're like, Ahlan Sahlan, welcome, yes. And we're like, can we buy these mattresses? In the end, we bought them, but we had to meet away from the close, because we couldn't pass because of the separation between Arabs and Jews here. We had to meet, our trucks had to meet somewhere far away in order to bring the mattresses back. But the point is that we have efforts to try to normalize, and so you will meet today some Arabs in that vein. But we also have a strong Hamas presence here as well. Hamas has become much more popular since October 7th, because, contrary to Western understanding, when you do an act like October 7th, you become more popular. When you say, that was violent, well, violence is power. I love how Americans are like, violence is disgusting. I'm like, well, what movies have you been watching recently from Hollywood? Clearly you like violence and think that it's sexy to be able to shoot and kill people.
I mean, there's a difference between a movie and an actual real life, but I know what you mean. Yeah. I play GTA. I don't think I'd ever hijack a car.
But you do understand that you do understand that playing that is some level of connecting with that way of thinking. It's in the end, it's okay. You're a nice guy, but my point was violence sells. That's all.
Sure.
Maybe this guy didn't do the killing, but he saw the video of Hamas doing it, and he's attracted to it.
Sure.
Do you consider Gaza to be a Jewish land?
Gaza was a Jewish community. All the history. Gaza was a Jewish community. Well, if you ask me, as I do in Hebron, trying and doing many things to develop a good relationship with the Arabs in Hebron, we should do the same in Gaza. But if you bring the PLO, which is totally the opposite to this will, totally opposite. Now, it was insanity from the Israeli government to bring the PLO and to try to think, or to try make the people think that the PLO, this group of terrorists, will bring peace and they will protect us. It's ridiculous, and it is. This way is dead end.
I've heard, sometimes I hear people arguing over whether or not Gaza is considered Jewish in the Talmud or the Torah. Do you have an opinion on that, or is it definitely the case one way or the other?
I'll tell you, at this minute, I don't think we can now try to imagine what's going on, and at this minute we have to win the war, and then begin to plan what's going on to happen.
When I was almost 1.5 years, was the 6-Day War. My grandmother's sister, Aunt Leah, lived in Hebron before the massacre that was in 1929. And we have videos that she described how she survived the massacre. And all the Arab men came to the house and stood in the front of the building and didn't let the other Arabs to go in. And he saved my family. It was very sad that the Arabs that couldn't kill the Jews inside were so mad about this old man, Arab man, they cut part of his leg. My parents came here before me. My mother, she's a nurse, and when she had the opportunity from the hospital that she can come live here or find a different job as a nurse, my parents lived here. This neighborhood had only 7 caravans, it's like those houses, mobilized houses, and they were very happy here. My mother felt she has a root connection here. Her aunt came and told the ladies of Hebron the story how she lived here before the massacre, and they had good life until Netanyahu made Hebron agreement, that this is continuation of Oslo agreement, that we thought that if we'll give the Arabs land, they'll make peace with us, but it didn't work. It was just upside down. And Arab terrorists came through the window to my parents' house and stabbed my father in his bed, in his pajama, just stab and kill him.
What year was this?
What year was 1998. This is my father. You see, this picture took 2 hours before he was murdered. He went to pray at the tomb of the Patriarch, and it was a wedding there. Someone told me that even though he was 64 years old, he was dancing like a young man to make them happy. And someone took a picture. And after he came home, my mother was waiting to him. They were eating, he went to sleep, and then the terrorists attacked them. It was a miracle he didn't kill my mother, because she tried to take my father away from the terrorists, and he pushed him and stabbed him again, and then he threw Molotov cocktail, and maybe he thought this how he'll kill my mother, but thank God they put down the fire and she saved.
Did they ever say why they came here, or did anybody ever find out, or?
Yes. This terrorist made another 2 terror attacks. You can imagine that the area that the Jews accept at Hebron agreement was so little that he could come here and went a few meters to the other side of the road, and he was by the Arab authority and no one can catch him. So he made 3 terror attacks. One, he killed my father. A month and a half later, he tried to murder people and soldiers on the road in Kikar Gross, but thank God no one died. A lot of people got hurt. And then he ran down to the Kasbah, to the shuk, and disappeared. And later he went to Be'er Sheva, to the bus station, tried to kill people there, and then they catch him. They asked him questions, why he did it. And he said that he went to the Temple Mount and he heard what the Imam talking, and he decided to go and kill Jews. And he said that he lived not far from here, and this is the closest neighborhood that Jews live. And he said he came here and it was light and a lot of people outside, so he couldn't kill Jews. And he said later he went to a mosque here in Hebron and heard again that it's good to kill Jews. And he came and killed my father. I was in the trial after they catch him, and the judge said he'll have to be in jail 3 sentence life because he made 3 terror attacks. And he tried again and again to kill people, and he said it's not human being not doing such a thing. And he stand and said, why are you telling I'm not human being? I am a good person. I heard it. And he said, I used to work by Jews. They trust me. They gave me the key of the houses that I worked there. I'm a good person. He didn't thought there's anything wrong with killing Jewish people. And this is the terrorist. Now he's free. Like Yishai Sinwar.
Why did he get free?
Gilad Shalit agreement. They free almost 1,000 terrorists. One of them is Yishai Sinwar that's making all this terrible war, and one of them is the murder of my father.
When you live in an area that's surrounded by so many Arabs, how do you feel they feel about Jews? Do you think most of them would be violent? Do you think there's a small amount of them? Do you think most of them aren't, but they could be? How do you feel about that?
It's not easy. Mm-hmm. I think that until this war, I would answer one answer, and now I think a lot of things change. Until the war, I thought there's Arabs that want to live with us with coexistence. In Hebron, there's 111 clans. Half of them came from Kurdistan, half of them came from Saudi Arabia. There's a lot of fight attempt between them and between each of the groups. Most of the Arabs in Hebron are extremely religious, support Hamas or organization that more radical that called Hizb al-Tahrir, something like ISIS. Mm-hmm. They controlled by a small group of Arabs that are considering themselves not religious, they're called Fatah. And most of them feel they are living under dictatorship. Not honest dictatorship, like they call it corruption and a lot of terrible things that this dictatorship of the Fatah doing to the Arabs that support Hamas or Hizb al-Tahrir. So this what made some clans in Hebron to be with connection with us. Mm-hmm. They said we don't want to suffer from the Fatah, it's better to be under Israeli control. Since Oslo Agreement, all the education, teaching that Israel shouldn't exist. The Jews shouldn't have any place or any legitimate to have their own homeland. It's amazing. I see from the window here every morning when they start school, all the students standing outside and screaming, all Palestine will be free. All Palestine is our. I saw a book that they live in on the street of learning. All the map of Israel, it's only Arab, no place to a Jewish state. And after so many years that this what they learn, you can understand why after what's happened at the 7th of October, most of the Arabs in Judea and Samaria support this, more than 80%. They know Israel give equal rights to the Arabs. You can see Arabs in Israel, not only in the court. My granddaughter was in hospital. The doctor, the head of the department was an Arab, the nurse, the cleaning, the same like the Jews. They can learn, they can develop, they can do everything by Israel, but they learning to hate us. And they waiting to the opportunity that, like they said in the Quran, that the Muslim will control everyone. And this is why I feel now it's all different story. It's not that we have some groups and some Arabs that want to live with us, and they are. And they are. Not all the Arabs are terrorists, and not all of them are bad people. But the opportunity that we'll have as a society, something together, now it's hard to see it.
A lot of times in Western media, we get a sense that Israel is the big bad wolf. Palestinians are the victims. They're small, Israel's big. Throughout this tour, I've tried to impress upon you a different perspective, that Israel is actually a small country, an armed ethnic minority in this region, that is really oppressed by the much broader Arab/jihadist state of affairs that runs in Arab countries, and that really we have a tight noose around us. Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Iran pushing into Iraq and maybe even Jordan, the Houthis in Yemen, the armed Palestinians in Judea and Samaria, the so-called West Bank, and even Arab Israelis who see themselves as part of the Palestinian narrative with the hope of destroying Israel. So I see ourselves as being actually a small minority in a tough strategic situation. And I've tried to sell you that. Did you buy into it at all, or?
No. I think that one thing
Fair
one thing that I feel historically is
actually I don't think it's fair, but okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I think that Arab unity and Muslim unity is a myth, and I think Jews have believed it for a long time, and I think Arabs have believed it for a long time. But
so Jews and Arabs believe it, but it's a myth.
It's a myth, yeah, because every time Arabs call upon each other to go to war to get rid of Israel, I think that the competing interests are always more pressing to them than the unified, fighting against Israel. I think you see that in conflict over conflict. Yeah.
The stuff that I said, which is that the jihad has taken over Gaza, southern Lebanon, Iraq, Iran, Yemen. That's a myth?
I didn't say that's a myth, but who are their main enemies?
Meaning?
Other Muslims, other Arabs, Saudi Arabia.
Well, they've declared war against Israel. We just had an attack from Gaza that killed 1,200 in one shot. And Yemen has declared war against Israel, the Houthis have anyway, and shooting rockets at us.
The Houthis have, and who have the Houthis been fighting for over a decade? Saudi Arabia, Saudi-led coalition, right?
They have other enemies.
The Iraq-Iran war was, two ostensibly Syrian, you had the Ba'ath Party, but whatever. I mean, you've got two Muslim countries, two Arab countries, or
right.
Arab and Persian, I'm sorry. But like two Muslim countries going to war with each other. You've got how many? I mean, who kills Arabs the best is other Arabs. Like it's the Syrian civil war. Like how many people starved to death in Yemen? Like
That's true, but that doesn't mean that Israel is not in danger.
I didn't say that they're not in danger. I'm just saying that the danger is different than it's in 2024. It's not the Arab-Israeli conflict, and even historically, again, that Arab unity was a myth. Nasser called up Hussein and he lied. He said, "Those are my planes going back in the 6-Day War, I promise." And then Jordan basically gets obliterated. They were Israeli planes coming back. Yeah.
But I'm making a point which is being missed here, which is that Israel's not the big boy around here. There's serious enemies that Israel faces, and we actually lost on October the 7th. We let our guard down. And I'm saying Israel can't let its guard down. It can't cut up its land and give it away to the jihad. That doesn't work. And Israel has got to see itself, it's got to see the enemies as big and strong, and itself as on the knife's edge, surviving out here, and not taking for granted what our enemies want to do.
I agree. The enemies of Israel need to be seen as big and strong, but I think that the problem is that right now, Israel is divided, and I don't think they see their enemies accurately. It's not the standing armies of Egypt, Jordan, and Syria anymore. It's the international propaganda war. It's the weakness of Israel's strength and the strength of the Palestinian weakness. It's the way that Western media can be influenced by 30,000 dead Palestinians. We've toured through Palestinian areas. I personally happen to support Israel in the current conflict. I think that Israel has a right to exist. I can give every single factual argument, I think, to further that point, but nothing is going to compare to, watching an old guy outside of his home that, his family's been evicted from, saying like, hey, yeah, I can't live here anymore, and this is where we came after 48, and now we're getting evicted again. Or, these are people shaking, exploded babies in front of cameras and stuff. And I understand this exists on both sides, but again, I think you have to impress upon Israelis, and I know that you guys have your immediate history, but the world doesn't see this as the Arab-Israeli conflict anymore.
Right.
They see it as the Palestinian-Israeli
Well, that's exactly my point, which is that it's become skewed and warped. And that's why I want to redraw in people's minds. And that's why when I was on Piers Morgan, I took out the map of Israel being this tiny spot within the broader Arab world. And I think it's an important point to make.
But Israel's biggest enemies aren't even Arabs anymore. They're Persians, right? It's Iran is like the biggest threat. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me shift it a little bit because I want to ask you about your expertise.
Sure.
We have to talk about the relationship between Palestinians and Israelis.
הסכסוך בינינו הוא מהרבה זמן.
The conflict between us is long, is old.
בכל המשא ומתן, בכל ההסכמות, בכל מה שהיה עד הסכם אוסלו, אין התוצאה.
All the negotiations that existed until, including Oslo, there was no result. There was no good result.
עכשיו זו התוצאה.
This is the
המצב
result.
שאנחנו נמצאים בו.
With the situation that we're in, that's the result.
ולכן מ-15 שנים.
Therefore, last 15 years,
דו-קיום עם הישראלים, עם קשר חזק.
last 15 years, we've managed to create a strong bond with the Israelis.
We as in the people in Hebron or the
מי
people
הוא
in
מתכוון? למי אתה מתכוון?
לכל הישראלים, בשטחים ובתוך ישראל.
לא, אתה אמרת שיש...
הפלסטינאים.
אז לא הבנתי, 15 שנים...
אנחנו מחפשים על דו-קיום בינינו לבין הישראלים.
אנחנו מחפשים.
כן.
We are searching for coexistence between us and the Israelis.
והיה תוצאות מאוד מאוד יפות.
There were good results. There were some good results.
אבו עלים אצלנו עובדים רגיל בישראל ובשטחים, גם עם תושבי השטחים הישראלים.
Our peoples work oftentimes in regular Israel and with the Jews of Judea and Samaria. The territories, he says.
ויש אפשרות גדולה.
There was an opportunity.
הזדמנות.
There's an opportunity.
שכולנו נחיה ביחד.
That we'll all live together.
אבל בגלל המצב הפוליטי, בגלל האנשים,
But because of the political situation,
המנהיגים שלנו,
in our leadership,
גם מהצד הישראלי,
from the Israeli side as well,
לא הצליחו, יגיעו לשלום אמיתי.
they could not come to real peace.
הרבה פעמים דיברנו עם כל העולם, עם חברי הקונגרס, עם הבית הלבן, עם האיחוד האירופי, עם מדינות ערב.
We have spoken many times, he himself, with congressmen, the White House, with European countries, and with Arab countries.
והיה לנו תמיכה גדולה.
We actually had backing.
אבל
when he says we?
I think what he means is people that think like him.
Okay.
בגלל שלא המנהיגים שלנו והמנהיגים הישראלים לא היו מוכנים להסכם אמיתי.
Our leadership and the Israeli leadership were not ready for a real agreement.
הרבה הזדמנויות היה לנו בגלל שנעשה שבירה לגדר בינינו לבין הישראלים. הרבה הזדמנויות.
A lot of opportunities.
היו לנו בגלל לשבור את הגדר בינינו לבין הישראלים.
There were many opportunities for us to break the barrier between us and the Israelis.
והגענו למצב מאוד מאוד מתקדם.
We were moving forward quite a lot.
אבל בסוף אין התוצאה שלא לקחו את ההזדמנות האמיתית.
But they missed the real opportunity.
עכשיו אנחנו חייבים נמשיך יותר חזק ממה שהיה בגלל נגיע לשלום אמיתי.
Now we have to redouble our efforts if we are to really reach real peace.
Was he referring to a specific opportunity when he said they missed the real opportunity?
It's good that you're asking these kind of questions because he's good at these kind of technical questions. הוא שואל איזה ספציפית, איזה הזדמנות הייתה שאתה מדבר עליה?
קודם כל, היה ב-2019 תוכנית פרזידנט טראמפ.
2019, the Trump plan.
ולתוכנית הזה היה תמיכה ממדינות ערב.
The Arab states were backing it, he says. This is the deal of the century.
The Trump,
right.
the Trumpist plan.
Right.
הטעות של הרשות הפלסטינית היה שהם לא ממשיכים בתוכנית הזה מההתחלה. היה טעות גדול.
The fact that the PA did not continue with this peace opportunity was a big mistake.
היו חייבים יבדקו איזה תוכנית, ישאלו טראמפ אדמיניסטריישן מה התוכנית, לאיפה אנחנו נגיע.
He says it should have been more studied.
מההתחלה היו נגד התוכנית.
Where is it going to lead to? What's going to come out of it? But from the get-go they were against it. They dismissed it from the
בתוכנית הזה היה התנגדות משני צדדים. מהישראלים יש חלק מהתוכנית היה לא מתאים לישראלים, והפלסטינאים כל ההסכם היה לא מתאים להם.
So there were some Israelis that were against parts of the plan, and from the Palestinian Authority, the whole thing was anathema. They just rejected it out of hand.
ולכן המצב הוא ירד.
The situation has degraded since then.
עד שהגענו למצב שאנחנו נמצאים בו.
Until the situation where we find ourselves in today.
עכשיו כל העולם מחפש על פתרון.
The whole world is searching for a solution. Okay, so that's Jerusalem. So we're south of Jerusalem. You'll see a little bit later why that's important to understand. Really, like everything revolves around Jerusalem. Like, and to understand that for us, to understand that, and for everybody around here, to understand that Jerusalem is like the center of peace there, that's very important. Now, sadly, what you can't see right now, which you can see on a clear day, is Tel Aviv, which is right out there. And the reason that's important is because we're really much closer than people understand. That last line that you see, the last line, that's actually the sea. That's the Mediterranean. And therefore, we understand that living here is actually protecting Tel Aviv and the whole coastal plain. In any case, in short, that big town right there behind us is called Beitar. That's the ultra-Orthodox town. And notice, by the way, there's an Arab town right next to it, a little Arab town right below it, which is called Nachlin. And there's another Arab town right over there. And there's this big Jewish town.
Does he feel like the settlements that are built more out, I think like Ariel might be one of them, the ones that are built away from the Green Line? Does he think that those are...
All settlements are outside the Green Line by definition.
There are ones that are closely kind of tucked and packed, and there's like clusters of them, and then there are the ones that are built a little bit more out. Kind of. Does he feel like these are hurting Palestinians, feeling that they can move towards peace? Or?
הוא שואל האם התנחלויות, גם כמו אריאל, מקומות גדולים, האם זה פוגע בסיכוי לשלום?
עכשיו, ב-2008 היה הסכם קרוב לגמרי.
מי זה?
בין אולמרט לבין הרשות הפלסטינית.
He says in 2008, Olmert came close to a full deal between Israel and the Palestinians.
הגיעו לנקודה הזו, יחליפו אדמות, יעשו אלטרנטיבה.
He says, what do you call it? Exchange of land swaps.
זה היה במשא ומתן.
It was in the negotiation.
זה לא בעיה, אבל מבחינתי אני, באופן אישי,
but from my personal view,
זה לא יסתדר.
It's not going to work out like that.
ולא נגיע לשלום בדרך הזה.
We're not going to get to peace in this way.
למה?
Why?
בגלל הפלסטינאים או הישראלים חיים באותו area, באותו...
Jews and Palestinians, Israelis and Palestinians live in the same area.
באותו אזור. ולכן יש לנו ניסיון גדול עם הישראלים.
We have a lot of experience with the Israelis.
הרבה שנים, 50, אולי 55 שנים, תושבי השטחים הפלסטינאים בקשר, בעבודה, בסחורה, כל הדברים האלה.
55 years we're used to already Israelis here. We're used to commerce and exchange. We're used to one another. We can work with one another. By the way, this recording device is not doing its thing, I think, over here. I think
אולי,
it's stopped doing its thing.
No, it's fine.
It's good?
אולי
Okay, yeah.
ב-78, 79,
Maybe in 78, 79,
בזמן הסכם קמפ דיוויד בין מצרים למדינת ישראל,
in the Camp David Accords,
אולי הפלסטינאים, אולי אם הם קיבלו
had the Palestinians accepted
מה שאמר
that vision
להם
of autonomy,
הנשיא סאדאת, אולי היינו
had they accepted what Sadat
אולי
recommended,
היה אפשרות.
which was an autonomy here,
למה? ההתנחלויות לא היו
because
כמו שהם
the settlements
היום.
were not what they are today.
אנחנו מדברים על זה يعني כבר 45 שנים.
We're talking about this for 45 years.
לפני 45 שנים, אריאל לא הייתה,
It was before Ariel.
הרבה תושבויות בשטחים לא היו. לא אריאל, לא אלקנה, לא מעלה אדומים, לא...
All the big towns like Ma'ale Adumim and Elkanah and others
גם
were not
קריית
there
ארבע.
yet. Even Kiryat Arba was not there, which is their sister city.
עכשיו, בגלל הפלסטינאים, בזבזו את ההזדמנות הזאת.
The Palestinians missed that opportunity.
כל יום יעבור, אנחנו נחזור אחורה.
Every day that passes, we go backwards.
ולכן, כל מה שאנחנו רואים עכשיו, זה בגלל הטעות של המנהיגים שלנו.
Everything we've seen now is because of the mistakes of our leaderships.
אני אמרתי למנהיגים גדולים בכל העולם, גם הפלסטינאים, אין לנו דרך אחרת, רק שנחיה ביחד, אנחנו והישראלים, במדינה אחת. אין ספק.
I have said to our leadership, there's no other pathway but Israelis and Palestinians living in one state.
למה? עכשיו, הפתרון הזה, חלק גדול מהישראלים, זה לא מתאים להם.
מה?
נחיה במדינה אחת.
For a lot of Israelis don't like that one
גם
state.
הפלסטינאים.
Although I do, of course.
לא מתאים להם שיקבלו מדינה כמו קנטונים. בלי ירושלים, בלי גבול, בלי...
And for many Palestinians, it's also unacceptable because it would be like cantons, like these like city-state things.
Yeah, the Emirates.
Yeah, the Emirates plan.
ולכן
Without Jerusalem, he said also.
אנחנו חייבים ונבקש מהמדינות הגדולות ובראש הרשימה United States, ארצות הברית, שהם יתחילו לפתרון מהדרך הזה. למה? אנחנו נמצאים עכשיו, עוד 10 שנים, אלה צעירים, אולי עוד 10 שנים יחזרו אלינו, ישאלו אותי, מה קרה עם הפלסטינאים?
So he says we have to move in this pathway, and you guys are still young. You may come back to us in 10. Oh, he says we have to turn to the big countries, especially the United States, and ask them to go in this pathway of one state. And if not, then you're going to come. You're young. You guys are young. You guys are going to come back here and say, in 10 years, and how'd you guys move forward? What happened here?
Can I ask? Okay, one last question. I was curious
Take
for
your
me,
time.
because I'm eating all this time. Okay, this is a very intricate one. Okay, ready? Very intricate. Okay.
מורכב, יש לו שאלה מורכבת.
When Muslims talk about sharing Al-Aqsa, or they talk about having some arrangement with Al-Aqsa, is the reason why they don't want Jewish presence there, is it because of a very heavily religious reason, or is it because they feel a type of disrespect, such that if there was a way to respectfully, with honor and integrity on both sides, share these places, would that be meaningfully different, or is it just like these two people just don't belong in the same area? Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm just curious what his answer is.
הוא שואל שאלה כזאת, הוא שואל ככה, הוא שואל האם הסיבה שהערבים לא רוצים את יהודים בהר הבית כולו, האם... See, the word Al-Aqsa, by the way, it's just one mosque on the whole Temple Mount. So it's
Well, you can say the whole Temple Mount.
I'm saying Temple Mount, right?
Yeah.
As I'm just want to make sure that nobody thinks I'm mistranslating.
Okay.
האם הסיבה היא דתית שהם לא רוצים יהודים שמה, או זה משהו יותר של כבוד, שהם מרגישים שהיהודים איכשהו לא נותנים כבוד להם, ואם היה אפשר לפתור את הבעיה של כבוד, אז היה אפשר למצוא איזה פתרון, או שזה משהו דתי שאין לו פתרון.
לא, אין לו פתרון, זה דתי.
It's religious, there is no...
למה? 2 מיליארד מוסלמים
2 billion
בעולם,
Muslims in the world.
הם חושבים שזה מקום קדוש רק למוסלמים.
They think it's a holy place just for Muslims.
אם הפלסטינאים יוותרו על זה, אז כל העולם המוסלמי יגיד להם אתם בוגדים.
It says if the Palestinians would give up on that claim, the whole Muslim world would say to them, you are stabbing us in the back, you are, what's the word I'm looking for?
You're stabbing it back, stabbing and turning their back on them.
Traitors, you're traitors. You're traitors to the cause of Islam. Okay? Fair enough. Well, you have an expertise in what you started mentioning, which is perception. And clearly Israel is not doing it quite right. We're not being perceived as a victim. If you had to give advice to Israel in terms of the perception war, what I call the narrative war, what would it be?
I don't know how you could ever fight against the reverse David and Goliath that has happened, where it's Israel and Palestine. I don't think Palestinians have enough support from any foreign government to ever make that look appealing to people.
Say that again?
I don't think the Palestinians have enough foreign, like, military support to ever make this fight look appealing on the outside, like such that, like, oh well, Israel is in an existential battle. Yeah, I mean, and again, I'm like, you told me earlier, like, if you're not religious, how do you understand this, blah, blah, blah. And I'll ask you to flip it. Like, just think of the perception from the outside. It's like, okay, October 7th was a threatening attack to all of Israel's existence. We lost 1,200 people. But the 8-month war that we've conducted in Gaza, where some, I don't know, 20 to 40,000, I don't know what the actual numbers are, but at least 20,000 Palestinians are dead, even if half of them are Hamas. Like, there's no person that looks at that and goes, wow, yeah, October 7th was a huge threat to Israel, but yeah, you know, the Palestinians sure do have the upper hand. Like, nobody sees it that way.
Yeah. It's interesting, you know, the Israeli Hasbara machine keeps on saying, like, well, you know, the amount of civilians to combatant casualty rate is very, very low, but it doesn't jive. I think also that Israel should have struck hard and fast and made this into a 2-week war, not an 8-month war. That was a big mistake. That should have been one of the calculuses, which is, and it always has been in Israeli wars, which is go fast while you have support. You know, I would have finished this war in 2 weeks. Turn off the electricity, the food, the water, the medicine, and especially the gasoline, and thereby flushed out the tunnels, because the tunnels can't exist for more than a few hours without those fans rotating in fresh air. And finish the war up, let the bad guys come in, and of course then have a vision. And this is another part of our big discussion that we had today, which is what's the vision for the future? My vision is that Israel would govern Gaza, take over militarily the Gaza Strip, because we're the only ones that can govern it. And after that, move in our people, and let, of course, Arabs who are decent, non-jihadists, pro-Israel Arabs, get residency, and then we will actually take responsibility for them. I see that as the movement forward.
The problem when you start shutting stuff off is you're helping Hamas win. For as much as people say Israel might kill Palestinian civilians, the people that want Palestinian civilians to die the most are Hamas.
Right.
If you shut off the electricity, do you think that Al Qassam brigades is starving to death while they're feeding civilians in the street? No, they're stealing aid and they're reselling it to people. So I think that if you turn off that stuff, you're going to have tremendous international pressure on Israel, and you're going to have tremendous.
First 2 weeks.
Well, but in 2 weeks, nobody's kicking out Hamas after 2 weeks of turning this stuff off. It's going to draw out and out and out, and the people to die first are going to be tons and tons of civilians, and you just can't have civilians starving to death.
Well, another thing is to move the civilians. You know, one of the big disgusting aspects of this whole war is the unwillingness of America, Egypt, and others to move the civilians into a safe space, like the Sinai, right?
Egypt won't agree with that, right?
Well, why though? Right? See, that's
because they don't want to deal with 2 million. That's a lot of refugees.
I would have taken responsibility for it. I would have been like, open that door to Sinai. I'm going to put the tents in. I'm going to make sure they're fed. I'm going to make sure the civilians get out of the harm's way, and then deal with the combatants. Nobody wants them to move.
I don't think the Palestinians nor the Egyptians would deal with that. Also, you've got to understand there's got to be a feeling there for them to feel like, I mean, you've talked to me today about, it's not the West Bank, it's Judea and Samaria, right? For them, these are the places that their grandparents grew up
Right.
in. It's the places that someone went back to. Like, they're not going to want to just move to the Sinai. It's not the same thing to them, right?
Although-
the Sinai sucks.
Sinai
Gaza's
is
beautiful.
beautiful.
Gaza is beautiful. The Sinai is...
North Sinai is beautiful on the beach. It's
North
fabulous.
Sinai on the beach might be, but that's not where they would all be, right? I'm sure.
Sure,
like,
you move them to North Sinai. That's exactly where they would be.
Okay, all right.
That's exactly where they would be. That's exactly where the tents would be. And one of the reasons that you got in touch with me is because I made a video making fun of you, or at least challenging you intellectually also. And then you made a video about that and also the Piers Morgan thing. So it was interesting. Some people were not happy with me challenging you because they're like, Destiny, he's on our side, you know? And I'm like, no, he might be an intellectual person, but like, I didn't agree with his conclusions. Like, we should not give up our land. We should not split this country up. And I chided you for coming up with the old solutions without coming up with any new solutions. But you like that. You actually made a video saying, okay, this guy's challenging me on the subject matter, not just calling me ad hominem
that's generally
names.
what people do, yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, and that's what one thing I noticed right at the beginning of our tour together is that coming from America, there's ironically no sense of conversation anymore, or less of it than it used to be. Somebody told me that the universities used to be the safe space itself. And now you really cannot have a chat. I have family members who, one watches MSNBC and the other one watches Fox. When they get together, it's just boom, just an explosion within seconds, curses are flying, and they're not on the same page anymore. So maybe like America has become less conversive, or conversant, is that the right word?
Yeah, we talked about this earlier. This is such a boring answer because people want to blame feminism, or they want to blame the red pill, or they want to blame Islam, or they want to blame the Jews. People have their particular ways of viewing the world, and when they put those glasses on, that's how they see everything, and they want to see everything because it makes them feel good, it makes them feel in control, and they organize things. I honest to God think that the internet has dramatically changed the world in such an unbelievably short amount of time. Like, there are people that ask me questions about my childhood, and I don't even remember. Like people ask, like, oh, like, how did you guys like keep track of each other? And it's like, I actually have no f***ing idea. Before you had a cell phone, when you left, because people might say like, oh yeah, we'll meet you at Michael's house at like 7. But like, if somebody's running, I don't know what the fuck you do. I don't even remember. And that was my life growing up. The internet has changed us so much. And one of the things that it's done is it's done this bad thing. I'm a huge liberal. I love liberalism, the ultimate liberal. But too much choice sometimes is bad. You need to be forced to be together with people that you might not want to be otherwise. And the internet has given you this scary ability to select.
But you're funny because that's what you make your living off of.
Well, kind of.
Aren't you also catering to the incels?
A little. No, I try to reach out and talk to. You've seen it. I'm here on this trip, right? I reach out and I talk to way more people, I think, than any other person on the internet, right? You heard the people we talked to today, from Mordecai Kedar to Valen to Omer to Barghouti. I think that people's ability to filter and select who they want to talk to and which bubbles they want to be in is destructive to the mind. It destroys the mind. You said you've got friends here that are of different religions, of different races. Like, if you lived in one completely homogenous town, maybe not even ethnically religious, but just ideologically, you live in one area and you never meet those other types of people, of course you're going to think crazy things about them. Why wouldn't you?
The left got rid of Arabic teaching. The left got rid of Arabic teaching. They don't want us to be like the Arabs. You hear Jewish liberals and leftists like, we're like the Arabs. I always say, why not? We're like the Arabs. We're Middle East peoples. We should know their language. Our languages are close. It teaches us their mindset. They understand us. It's important. I think Israelis should speak Arabic. I'm sure that we'll be more right-wing also if we speak Arabic. We'll understand exactly how to deal with the issues.
Is there a question or thing you think we should know from him that you would ask, or?
I would ask right now, like, is there a way back from this October 7th, because Hamas has become very popular? Is there a way to bring the Palestinian children back from the jihadists, bloodletting?
What does he think is the best way to build bridges then?
I asked more specifically. Specifically, October. He's told me that October 7th has been a big positive boost for Hamas.
Okay.
Is there any way back from that?
אבל,
אתה שומע מה אני שואל?
כן.
אני שואל, האם אתה אמרת לי שחמאס היום מאוד פופולרי?
כן.
אז יש דרך חזק, כי חמאס זה שנאת ישראל, אין מה לעשות.
אתה יודע, תבדוק בירדן, במצרים,
check Egypt,
בלבנון, בעיראק, בכל מדינות ערב.
all the Arabian states, Arabic states.
תראה כמה יש להם תמיכה.
למי?
לחמאס.
See how much support they have Hamas, a lot.
אנחנו לא חייבים נשים ראש שלנו
We can't put our head on the ground.
באדמה ונגיד אף אחד לא רואה אותנו. לא. עכשיו אנחנו רואים מה יש על רצפה, זה ברור.
No.
ועכשיו,
We see what's the situation.
לכן אנחנו חייבים
And therefore, that's why
להמשיך חזק
we have to fight hard.
בתוכנית אמיתי,
A real peace
בלי
plan.
מושחתים,
Without the corrupt ones,
בלי אנשים רעים,
without evil ones.
ואתם תראו איך תהיה התוצאה. מה שיש עכשיו, אני אמרתי לכם, היה כמו מה שיש עכשיו ב-82 בלבנון.
This is the same thing what happened in Lebanon. The
אחרי זה באו לאוסלו.
and then they go into Oslo.
זה לא משנה. זה אולי יעכב את זה שנה, שנתיים, אבל אחרי זה אנחנו נמשיך.
It might be slow for the first 2 years, but we'll have to.
הבעיה היא אם אנחנו רוצים באמת נמשיך בדרך הזאת.
If we want a real
זה
normalization,
הכל.
real peace, that's the way to go forward.
באמת, זה הכל. גם אני אגיד לכם יותר מזה.
I'll tell you even more than that.
2006, חמאס ניצחו בבחירות הפרלמנט הפלסטיני.
Hamas won in the parliament,
בניצחון.
Palestinian parliament 2006.
ראש הממשלה 10. היה בממשלה מספר 10.
The 10th government, the 10th
10th government.
as a government,
פלסטיני, כן.
the 10th Palestinian
הוא היה
government.
ראש הממשלה.
Who was the
זה אסמאעיל הנייה.
Oh, Ismail Haniyeh
כן.
was the head of the Palestinian
כן,
parliament.
כן,
Because Hamas won the elections in 2006.
Yeah.
כן. 80% מהשרים היו גם חמאס.
80% of the ministers were also Hamas.
שאלו אותו שאלה.
They asked him a question.
אמרו לו, אתה נגד, עכשיו אתה נכנסת לבחירות במסגר אוסלו.
You came into these elections in the framework of Oslo.
אתה כאיש חמאס, אתה אומר, אני לא מצביע, או לא, يعني, לא אומר שאני מעתרף, يعني, בישראל. אני לא אומר שזה ישראל כחמאס. אנחנו לא בהסכם בינם.
I couldn't. He said I can't recognize Israel. I'm not part of the Oslo Accords because I can't recognize Israel.
זה כמפלגה.
That is as a party.
אבל במקום אני ראש
as my party, I cannot recognize Israel. But as a head of the state, as a head of the parliament,
אני לא נגד.
I can't be against.
שהשרים שלנו יפגשו, השרים הישראלים.
I'm not against that our ministers will meet the Israeli ministers.
הוא אמר את זה בעצמו. הוא אמר ככה.
So,
עכשיו זה ייתן לנו שיש אפשרות
that shows us there's a possibility
להתקדם.
to move forward. Interesting.
אבל מי בזבז את כל ההזדמנויות האלו?
But who wasted all these opportunities?
הראשון זה הרשות הפלסטינית,
The PA,
בגלל שהם שומרים על כסף או על שחיתות שלהם.
because they need to keep the corruption.
וממשלת ישראל לא הייתה כל כך לקחה את ההזדמנות הזו עם ישראל, עם הפלסטינים, עם חמאס.
The Israeli government did not take the opportunity. Huh?
לא לקחו ההזדמנות עם חמאס.
They didn't even take the opportunity with Hamas to make some kind of understanding.
לכן הם חייבים ילמדו ממה שהיה.
You have to learn from the mistakes.
זה לא בעיה. חמאס ניצחו, לא, זה לא בעיה. אני אמרתי לכם, היה הנייה ראש הממשלה ב-2006. הוא אמר במילים האלו, אנחנו מוכנים שהשרים שלנו יפגשו את השרים הישראלים.
So even this Hamas guy,
אין בעיה.
Ismail Haniyeh, was willing to have ministers meet one another.
תבדקו ביוטיוב ואתם תעשה ריסרצ' בדיקה ביוטיוב ואתה תראה את זה.
Check it. You'll see.
כן.
טוב, נו.
לכן אני אומר להם, כל מה שאתם שומעים מהמושחתים זה לא נכון.
From the corrupt ones is not true.
מישהו ייכנס לבחירות ברשות הפלסטינית חוץ ממחמוד עבאס ואנשים שלו, זה יצליח.
Anybody who comes into the PA elections other than Mahmoud Abbas
Mustafa al-Barghouti
compete with Mahmoud Abbas will be successful.
كمنهيج فلسطيني هو يצליח.
Mustafa Barghouti could succeed.
هو بن أدم לא קיצוני.
He's not an extremist.
ומאוד מאוד מחובר.
He's connected.
והוא מוכן לשלום עם הישראלים.
He's willing to have peace with Israelis.
גם מרואן ברגותי זה אסיר עכשיו בכלא הישראלי.
Marwan Barghouti is a murderer who sits in Israeli jail.
זה פתח.
He's Fatah.
כמו מחמוד עבאס.
He's
בדיוק.
like Mahmoud Abbas, same thing.
אם הוא ייכנס לבחירות, הוא יצליח.
If he goes, then he'll also be
אחוז.
successful. 90% will vote for him.
הוא פתח, לא חמאס.
אז מה זה אומר?
זה אומר, הבעיה, המנהיגים שלנו עכשיו.
The problem is the leaders right now.
למה הנשיא ביידן אמר, אנחנו רוצים, תהיה רשות חדשה?
Why did Biden say that we want a new PA?
בגלל שהוא יודע.
Because he knows.
העם הפלסטיני לא מסכים על מנהיגים שלו שהם
He
נמצאים
knows
בשלטון
that
עכשיו.
the Palestinian people are not happy with their leaders right now.
וכל מי שיגיד להם, חוץ מזה, הוא משקר עליהם.
Anybody tells you anything different is lying. You need to say they're not really representing them. They're just corrupt.
ו-80% מהעם הפלסטיני לא חמאס ולא פתח.
And he says 80% are neither really Hamas or Fatah.
Like I think we've heard the same from most people, yeah.
הוא שמע את זה גם מאחרים. טוב. עכשיו הוא לא, יש לו בעיה קצת. I say he have a little bit of a problem. הוא לא מאמין, הוא לא כל כך מאמין באלוהים.
לא, זה בעיה.
What are you saying?
I said, you have a problem. You don't really believe in God.
Oh, no.
So he said that's a problem.
Okay.
Because here we finish meetings like this with a prayer that inshallah things will have good leadership. We'll have good opportunities to move forward, and that Abraham wants to see his children coexist and respect one another. That's what Abraham wants. And that's important to us, these things.
Well, I'm baptized and confirmed, so hopefully I might be lost, but I'll find my way back.
Inshallah, we said.
Inshallah.
הוא אומר שהוא יחזור בתשובה. הוא יחזור בתשובה. תודה רבה על הזמן.
בשמחה רבה.
תודה רבה. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You guys got a very special.
Thank you.
Remember where we are right now. We're in Arab Hebron. I'm a settler. We're talking to an important Arab leader here. We hope that him and people like him will have more opportunities to rise up, his kind of voice, which we think is very important. By the way, we don't agree on everything. You know what I mean? But people that we can talk with, that are our cousins, Were you surprised today at all when I took you to an Arab leader here in Hebron, right behind the Tomb of the Patriarchs and Matriarchs? I took you to meet the head of the Jabri clan. And I wanted you to meet him because I wanted you to meet an Arab who sees a one-state solution with Arab residency, Palestinian residency in the state of Israel as at least a first step towards a solution.
You would have surprised me if it was like on day 1 or 2. We've spoken to a few Arabs now, though. One thing I've noticed is that we speak about Israel and the problems you have in the Knesset and the division in Israel, and then the Palestinians are always the Palestinians. But we've been here for almost 2 weeks now, and the Palestinian or Arab population in these lands are as diverse in opinion as the Israelis, as the Jews. So yeah, it was cool getting another perspective. But yeah, I've definitely seen there's a lot of division between.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
that's already a good thing. Just to understand that it's not Israel, one monolith versus Palestine, another monolith. Did you at all start to track away from the two-state solution idea? I did my best to try to impress upon you that cutting up this tiny piece of land, giving a part of it over to the Palestinians in order for it to become what would eventually become a jihadist state is a bad idea. I tried to wean you off of those ideas that have been tested and have failed over and over again, and really help you come to a conclusion that this tiny piece of land should stay whole, and that real peace looks like a strong Israel on its land, surrounded by Arabs on their land, or are you still holding on to the fuddy-duddy?
So this is my perspective.
I'm trying to goad you here.
Yeah,
is that coming across here? Okay.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, but
Okay.
this is my perspective. At the end of the day,
No, but I do mean it.
At the end of the day, I'm American. I actually don't care that much. Whatever happens here it doesn't affect me personally. And
I like that
everybody should know that kids that are protesting on college campuses, whatever, these guys don't give a fuck. In 6 months, they're moving on to I'm sorry. in 6 weeks or in 6 days, depending on what's going on. They're moving on to the next thing. So overseas, if nobody lives here, they don't have a direct investment here. Nobody actually cares. I care insofar as I'm interested in the history and I'm interested in how things turn out. When I talk about like one state or two state solution or the Emirati solution or whatever the fuck else solution or the Jordanian corridor or whatever or the Sinai, I don't actually care like principally about any of these things. I guess what I'm most interested in is what do both sides want? What are the red lines on both sides? And like how can that be nudged so that these red lines overlap instead of being completely when both sides are contradictory, both can't exist at the same time, is what I'm looking for.
Mutually exclusive?
Yeah, when both sides are mutually exclusive to each other. That's kind of thing that I am. So like, if somebody came up to me today and they said, oh, we just did a poll and 75% of all the Palestinians, 75% of all the Jews, they all came together and they said that they could handle 2 separate states and they'd feel comfortable, and I say, okay, I'm a 2-stater. Right. If somebody comes up to me and they said, oh, we polled and 85% of people all say that, you know what, Arabs are cool having a separate kind of like parliamentary body, they'll live in a one state and everybody will be happy, it's blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, okay, fine, then I'd be cool with that. Like people oftentimes from the West, we do this thing where we want to impose like, okay, well you need, like you don't have a bicameral legislature with a constitution, well you guys need to do that first. And then like, oh, well you guys don't have this, and it's like, that's a mistake. I think it's stupid, yeah.
Okay, I like that. That's a very fair answer, except for one thing. Okay. Like, I think it's a very fair answer as a foreigner talking about this place. I like that you're saying, look, I'm not here to impose the thing, and I don't care so much because it's really not my thing, but I'm interested in trying to move people together. The only mistake in that, in my opinion, is that here in the Middle East, as I told you, my colleague Noam Arnon came up to a very important, prominent Arab around here, gave him a solution idea, and the Arab said to him, I really like it. It's a good solution, but you're going to have to force it upon me. Because as an Arab, I can't now get out there and be like, yeah, I can accept Israel and I'll be a resident of Israel. Like there's an honor thing, and therefore I like your solution, but you're going to have to force me to accept it so that I could save face and say, okay, well, you know, they forced me, but it is a good solution for my people. But I just don't want to have to be accepted like a Westerner and be like, yes, I vote for this solution.
I mean, I disagree, but all the historical examples I'm going to cite are things where you said Israel has made mistakes. So, Ben-Ami says over and over again that I think Israel can figure out how to do peace, but it can't force the parties to be ready for peace. Typically, that's been on the Arab side. So it took, Yom Kippur in 73.
So that's where the mistake is. He doesn't understand that you have to force peace.
I understand.
Yeah. By the way, you spoke to a ton of like what I call lefties.
Sure.
You spoke to a ton of them. And I asked you a question. I said, did you by any chance say to them like, do you want to apologize for the crap that you pulled?
I mean, they all understand that they didn't work. They understand the plans didn't work.
Did they understand that they failed tremendously and helped radicalize Palestinian society to the point that like the kids now are jihadis and that they've been educated through the system that they created? The PA has created an education system to teach kids to hate Jews. That's what these guys have succeeded in doing.
I think that it's easy to think of counterfactuals where everything would have been perfect, but one thing that Israel is horrible at is I don't think Israel takes credit for the tremendous progress that they've made in conjunction with the Palestinians that live here. Like, for all the horrible refugee camps, for all of the horrible UNRWA brainwashing, for all the horrible whatever else, the Palestinians are like the second most literate group of Arabs in the world.
Right.
For as horrible as people will say that, these particular areas are, the standards of living here are among some of the best for Arab populations around the world, and people will say that look, you've destroyed them. No, Syria is destroyed. Iraq for a while was destroyed. Right. Yemen is destroyed. Palestinians definitely have issues, and I'll say this, I'll leave this out here a little bit because I know you're going to disagree with it a lot. I came into the past 2 weeks, I came in here hating the PA, hating Mahmoud Abbas. And after, touring through some of the cities, after seeing the police officers around, after hearing what they used to be like, what they are now, there is a sense of security. There is a sense that people could be out. I think I give them a little bit more credit than I used to, But
that's interesting. For me, when I watch Palestinian Authority television, which I have at home, it is 24/7 brainwashing to kill the Jews. It's really pretty sick. When I pick up from the trash Palestinian Authority textbooks here, it's literally like 2 dead Jews plus 2 more dead Jews equal 4 dead Jews, correct? Like it's really pretty sick. And okay, but it's interesting that you see it that way.
Abbas is an improvement from Arafat, I would say. But maybe you wouldn't feel that way?
Yeah, I don't know. And also, I just know too many Arabs who have been literally tortured for taking selfies with Jews. You know?
I mean, first and second Intifada saw 1,000 plus collaborators that were tortured and killed too as well.
It's just horrific. And you sat with an Arab today who kept saying to you, how could your government, this thing that's supposed to symbolize liberalism and democracy, support these dictators who oppress our people and steal our money?
I mean, dictators work in some parts of the world for a while. You said it yourself. You guys agree that sometimes the interim, sometimes not all at once, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of the big mistakes actually was Israel assuming like, oh, we're going to take these people, Mordecai Kadar would say these people that organize along families and tribes and clans, and we're going to thrust upon them liberal democracy, thinking that the only two options are liberal democracy or this incredibly theocratic dictatorship, not realizing that there might be like interim steps in between that are okay steps in between. But that's a more macro question that maybe I'm equipped to answer. But.
Stephen, we got to start winding down. It's been really fun to have you here. I call it the nom de guerre, which means like the war name, your handle, or what do you want to call it?
Well, my son is Nathan, so I'd be Abu Nathan, right?
Abu Nathan, that's right, that's right. Your name though is Destiny.
Stephen.
Well, but online you call
Online
yourself,
is Destiny, yeah.
Right, which bespeaks of destiny.
I think Yair Golan, I think Ben Ami, but every single person we spoke to this trip used Israel's destiny like 5 times.
I wasn't going to ask you. No, I was going to ask you what you think is. The Torah tells us not to try to overly guess the future, but how do you see it? First thing, just this is really not my department, but just to get a sense from you, what's the health of the United States of America?
We just went in for an MRI, and we're going to find out in a few months what the results are. They're either going to be terminal cancer all over the body, and we're going to be on the way to dying, or we had a small tumor that is easily operable, and we're going to remove it, and everything's going to be okay-ish going forward. We'll find out after our next presidential elections what the results were, I guess.
And you're a Biden person.
I am a big Biden supporter. So half the people hearing that are agreeing with me
like,
are on the other side. Yeah, they're like, I agree, Destiny, 100%. And then I say Biden, they're like, wait, what? Yeah, so,
Okay. In my opinion, I love the United States. I think it's a great country, but I want Israeli independence. Like, I have no problem with America being successful and good, but I want more Israeli independence. I don't want Israeli dependency. I actually don't want America to give any aid to Israel. If they want to have joint defense, fund for joint defense operations and development, okay, but I don't want any aid. I want to see Israel as an independent, strong country making decisions. I also want to see Israel diversify its purchases, not just from America, but from the rest of the world, and also make its own armaments and other things. I want to see Israel stand a little bit more alone. I think it's time. So I don't mind the U.S.-Israel relationship, but as long as it's not overbearing and become paternalistic. Thoughts?
I understand that. I think that Israel, for a long time, from the first days of the country, saw that Western help was important to have Western support, because it's easy to imagine if I go to fight one other guy and that guy has a friend, and then I've got a friend, and I tell my friend, actually, you know what, I think I can take that guy, I don't need you. And then my friend's like, okay. And then all of a sudden, all 3 of them are over there. I think that's always the fear. It's not that Israel can't handle itself against a couple other enemies, or even a sea of enemies. It's that Israel can't handle itself against a sea of enemies that have the backing of even further enemies. And I think, does Israel need the United States to survive against Hamas or what Iran might do? Maybe not. But do they need the United States for help against what in Iran, backed by China and Russia and other foreign enemies, could bring to the table? Maybe. I think it's good to have friends in the world, but I'm a big NATO guy, so yeah.
No, it's good to have friends,
yeah.
But just not dependency.
Sure.
Just not dependency. Some people, by the way, posit that part of America's interest is to keep all the parties around here weak, in order to continue to be the big player, in order to keep supplying everybody with arms, in order to be the influencer, but not to let Israel become too big, or anybody else.
I mean, there's truth to that, right? That's the idea behind the reduction of nuclear proliferation, right? Is the idea that we don't want as many people to have nuclear weapons. We just want to keep it in the hands of a few people. That a multipolar world or a unipolar thing is better than a multipolar where everybody has nuclear weapons and everybody's super strong. So there is some aspect of truth to that, yeah.
Okay, I want to first thank you for coming out to Israel and the territories, and to. We did decide right in the beginning of the day that language is important. Language is very important.
We had a ton of fun touring historically mandatory Palestine, or whatever you call it. So it's been a lot of fun. I love being here on the west bank of the Jordan River. I can see it right over the hill.
And you get to meet the settlers.
Yeah,
you get to hang out with the settlers.
Yes,
That's right. We are actually proud settlers. We're proud Jews that live in this land and holding on to what we think is ours, and we don't think we're ever leaving. And we've got to find a way forward. But more than anything, I think what you've done here is continued your tradition of being intellectually honest and curious, and I think that's a healthy thing for this world. So I want to thank you for that. And let's continue the conversation. Conversation is healthy. That's really one of the hearts of liberalism, isn't it? Is the ability to converse and to keep talking about policy the way it should move forward. We're going to continue to be strong out here in this good land. Any parting words?
It's been fun. Regardless of what I say or feel about anybody, everybody out here, everybody that I met out here was amazing. Arab hospitality was amazing. Jewish hospitality was amazing. The settler family we went out to meet, it's the first hot chocolate that I've gotten here. I thought that was awesome.
You asked for hot chocolate. The man does not drink coffee.
The man does not drink coffee.
Yeah, so he needed some shoko to.
I would say here's probably the biggest thing that I took away from being here and from studying this region is I think that the history of the Jews here and what they've done in this land is quite phenomenal. I don't think anything will make you feel more Zionist than reading all of the internal debates, all of the issues, the struggles from 47 to 48 to the being able to win these wars from 48 to 56 to 67 to 73 is an amazing story. And then on the other side, I think that the Palestinians have a pretty amazing story too. That there are all of these people that are doctors, that are lawyers, that they wear suits. They're not riding around on camels everywhere. They're a very modern people. Their literacy rates are incredibly high. But both people here have accomplished so much, and in classic, I guess, worldly conflict are in some ways more similar than different. And I hope there are some parts of the world where you see it and you're like, oh my God, like everything here is fucked. And I hope that I don't know what's going to happen here, whatever. But when you come to this region, everything here is primed for this nuclear launch of successful stuff. If the diplomatic territory, whatever the fuck issues could get solved, there's so much amazing, awesome stuff that could happen here. And I hope it happens sometime soon.
And that's what we think the Abraham Accords is. That's the beginning of that, where Israel is a normative part of this region and where this whole region rises up. We think that players like Mohammed bin Salman potentially are interested in that. There is a yearning for normalization. Some say that the reason Hamas struck on October the 7th is because that progress was moving forward. And because they wanted to stop that train of Israeli normalization in this region, of the Abrahamic region coming together, that was moving forward. And that's exactly why they struck. That's one of the rationales for their attack.
I hope the next accords include the Palestinians. So
I hope that they'll be residents of Israel and move forward with that, and of course drop jihadism. Stephen Bonnell, AKA Destiny, thank you so much for being a Hebron with me today.
Yishai Fleisher, thank you for giving the stories. Thank you for chatting with me. I appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good one.
Toda. Thank you.
As the sun was setting on the final day, traversing.
So too did I hope for the day that the sun sets on this awful day.